With Game of Thrones being back in the spotlight, I wanted to spend today's video breaking down the top 10 episodes of the original series. If you have any guesses as to what might be on the list, definitely let me know in the comments below. What's up everybody, your friendly neighborhood Tony here, and before we get started, I want to just clarify how I made this list. These are not my favorite Game of Thrones episode, although they are some of my favorites. Instead, I scoured the internet pulling thousands of reviews from both fans and critics the world over and ranked them based on what you have decided are the best. If that sounds good to you and you want to see more ranking videos just like this, subscribe, or at least click that little like button. I don't know if it really affects the algorithm in any way, but it certainly makes me feel appreciated. All right, without further ado, coming in at number 10 is Season 2, Episode 9, Blackwater. For those of you who, like me, might not remember what happened in each episode based on the title alone, Blackwater is probably most known for the Battle of Blackwater at King's Landing, and that sick scene where they use the wildfire on Stannis Baratheon's ships. While Stannis attacks, Sansa tries to manipulate Joffrey into leading the counterattack himself, but of course he's far too much of a coward for that, so he weasels his way out. Instead, Tyrion leads the defense, destroying most of Stannis' ships with the wildfire they had stored up, and rallying the troops from the front line. This is a great episode for Tyrion. Although losing most of his ships and being forced to attack on land, Stannis makes his way into the castle, and it is looking bad for Team Lannister. Sandor Clegane, the Hound, takes off on his own, renouncing Joffrey. Joffrey retreats in fear. Cersei goes into the throne room with Tommen with plans to kill him to avoid being captured. It is basically a wrap, when suddenly, Grandpa Tywin joins the fight along with Sir Loras and their squad, forcing Stannis to retreat. I'm sure you already know, but Game of Thrones is streaming on HBO right now, so you can catch up on these episodes there, but there's also a killer complete collection on 4K Blu-ray, and the last time I checked it was on crazy sale, so I will link that below in the description as well. Coming in at number 9 is an episode that made heads explode in more ways than one. Too soon? That is Season 4, Episode 8, The Mountain and the Viper. Most known for the absolutely nuts battle between the Mountain, Gregor Clegane, and Oberyn Martell, the Viper, this episode also included a lot of character development. The episode begins with the wildlings attacking Mole's town, the town where Sam sent Gilly and Little Sam to hide. Ygritte discovers Gilly hiding and spares her. In Essos, we see Grey Worm and Missandei's relationship grow as Ser Jorah's and Khaleesi's comes crumbling down, as it's revealed that Jorah had previously been pardoned by King Robert for spying on Daenerys. Elsewhere, Ramsay forces Theon Greyjoy, or I guess Reek at this time, to convince the Ironborn to surrender at Moat Cailin, promising them safe passage. They agree, and wouldn't you know it, Ramsay hits him with the old LOLJK and flays and slaughters them all. What a nice guy. On a positive note, it results in him being officially named a Bolton, so, you know, he's got that going for him. Meanwhile, in the Vale, Sansa reveals her true identity, and you really start to see her come into her own as a player of the game, as she convinces the council that Littlefinger is innocent of murdering her crazy aunt. Then, before the titular battle, we see Arya and the Hound arrive at the outskirts of the Vale, only to learn of Lysa's death and subsequently leave, assuming there was nothing there for them. Then, of course, is one of the most epic one-on-one fights in all of Game of Thrones, followed by one of the most soul-crushing twists. This is an absolutely brutal episode to watch, particularly the last few minutes, but man, easily one of the most memorable. Next up on the list, coming in at number 8, is another episode from Season 4, Episode 6, The Laws of Gods and Men. Most known for the trial of Tyrion Lannister, this episode begins with Davos and Stannis Baratheon meeting with the Iron Bank to secure a loan for Stannis. Yara Greyjoy leads a mission to rescue Theon, who has become so emotionally broken he refuses to leave. Daenerys is setting into her new role as queen, which turns out is not all fun and games. Who would have guessed? She ends up having to deal with such matters as, your dragon ate my goat, as well as the more serious matter of a nobleman who wants to reclaim the body of his crucified father. Then, we cut to King's Landing, where a bounty is put on the Hound's head by Tywin, and Tyrion is put on trial for the murder of Joffrey. The trial is basically a sham, with everyone testifying against him with no evidence whatsoever. Then, to really screw your boy over, his girl Shay falsely testifies against him. With no other choice, Tyrion demands a trial by combat, which, well, we all saw how that went in the last episode we broke down. Yikes. Next up at number 7 is an episode that I think everyone watching uncontrollably cheered at, which is kind of dark when you think about it. Season 4, Episode 2, The Lion and the Rose. The episode opens up with a brutal scene of Ramsay doing a bit of hunting. We then cut to King's Landing, where Jaime is having a hard time after losing his sword hand. Tyrion, being the absolute bro that he is, hooks him up with Bronn to help him train using his left hand instead. Tyrion then, in an attempt to protect Shae, arranges to send her to Essos, away from King's Landing and, more importantly, away from his father. Back with Ramsay, his dad returns home and reams him out for torturing Theon and devaluing him as a hostage. He then tasks Ramsay with reclaiming the territories under Ironborn occupation, promising a reward if he succeeds. In Dragonstone, Melisandre sacrifices 3 people to the Lord of Light, burning them to death. Then, of course, we have the beautiful wedding of the soon-to-be late King Joffrey and Margaery Tyrell. I honestly feel bad for the actor that played Joffrey. It has to be hard to have everyone rooting for your character to die, but we finally get to say farewell to the Mad King Joffrey in the most brutal and delightful way. Next up on the list, coming in at number 6, we jump to Season 6, Episode 5, The Door. Who's ready to cry? Starting out this episode, Sansa receives a letter to meet with Littlefinger. This is, of course, after she had already been held captive by Ramsay Bolton, largely due to Littlefinger. Littlefinger offers the Vale's forces to Sansa to help her take back the North, which she declines. Sansa and Jon Snow then leave Castle Black to gather the support of other northern houses, sending Brienne to meet with her great-uncle Brynden Tully. In Braavos, Arya is continuing her training and is tasked with assassinating an actress named Lady Crane. In the Iron Islands, a new king has to be picked. Euron, Yara and Theon's uncle, wins the throne, despite admitting to killing Balon, the former king. Yara and Theon then take their supporters and flee, taking with them a large chunk of the Navy's fleet. In Essos, Daenerys orders Ser Jorah to find a cure for his grayscale and return once he has. A Red Priestess then meets with Tyrion and Varys, promising to support Daenerys. Beyond the Wall, Brendan Stark learns about the origin of the White Walkers being created by the Children of the Forest to protect them from mankind, and later on that night, Brandon goes on another vision walk. There, although he should be invisible, the Night King sees him, grabbing his arm and leaving a mark and making his location known. The Children of the Forest attempt to hold back the Night King and his army, and Bran and his friends flee. Bran then wargs into Hodor, kinda through time. It's weird, but either way, we learn how Hodor got his name in a horribly sad scene. Breaking into the top 5, we move on to Season 7, Episode 4, The Spoils of War. In this episode, we get to see what happens when a fully grown dragon goes to war. We open with a wagon trail carrying gold from Highgarden to King's Landing as Cersei assures the Iron Bank full repayment of the Lannisters' debt. Arya, Sansa, and Bran are all reunited in Winterfell, where Littlefinger presents Bran with the Valyrian steel dagger his would-be assassin used. Bran then gives that dagger to Arya, since, I don't think I'd want the weapon somebody tried to kill me with. Kind of a terrible gift idea. Mira finally parts with Bran, although he's not really Bran anymore at this point. Arya then asks to spar with Brienne, showing off her new skills. Elsewhere, Jon shows Daenerys a cave filled with dragon glass and wall paintings depicting the first men and the Children of the Forest joining forces with the undead. Daenerys learns that the attack on Casterly Rock was a diversion, and Lannister forces have instead captured Highgarden. She then rides Drogon into battle as the Dothraki launch a surprise attack on the Lannister army, decimating it and capturing its remaining forces. Drogon is slightly wounded when Bronn fires a giant bolt from a new Scorpion ballista weapon, but he's able to land safely with Daenerys. Jaime then charges on horseback at Daenerys as Drogon spews fire at him. Bronn tackles Jaime into a river, saving him. An absolutely incredible episode with one of the most epic battles ever aired on television. Coming up next, at number 4, we jump back to Season 5, Episode 8, Hardhome. We open with Tyrion standing before Daenerys making his case to have her spare Ser Jorah's life, who is then exiled once again. Tyrion then convinces Daenerys to let him join her council as Jorah returns to Yezon and asks to fight in the pits. We see Cersei still imprisoned and unwilling to confess her crimes as her uncle Kevan is appointed as Hand of the King. Then, with Arya, she is tasked with assassinating an insurance vendor who's been defrauding people. Theon, still believing he's Reek, tells Sansa that he faked killing Brandon and Rickon as Ramsay asks his father for 20 men to attack Stannis' camp. Jon and Tormund arrive at Hardhome and recruit 5,000 wildlings to fight the army of whites. Jon ends up fighting one of the White Walker generals and ends up killing him with Longclaw, his Valyrian steel sword. As he, Tormund, and the other survivors escape by sea, they see the Night King reanimate the dead wildlings. I will never forget the shock of seeing all those dead wildlings come back to life and the fear of realizing mankind might just be screwed. And now, we break into the top 3 with quite possibly the most shocking episode of television ever. Season 3, Episode 9, the Reigns of Castamere. In the Reigns of Castamere, Daenerys sends Ser Jorah, Naharis, and Grey Worm to infiltrate Yunkai and to open the city gates for her army. The Yunkai slaves then willingly surrender to her forces. Elsewhere, Sam, Gilly, and their son arrive at the wall. While hiding in a tower during a thunderstorm, Bran wargs into Hodor's mind for the first time to keep him from revealing their hiding place from the wildlings below. Nearby, Jon Snow refuses to murder a farmer who Ygritte ends up killing instead. The other wildlings then turn on Jon, but he manages to escape. Bran uses his warg ability again to jump into a direwolf to help Jon escape. Osha, Rickon, and his direwolf Shaggy Dog leave for the last hearth, while Bran, Mira, Jojen, and Hodor, as well as Bran's direwolf Summer, plan to go beyond the wall. Robb arrives at the twins and apologizes to Walder Frey for reneging on his agreement to marry Frey's daughter. Walder seems to accept the apology, and Edmure marries Rosalind Frey instead. After Edmure and Rosalind leave the feast, the Red Wedding begins. Walder's men murder Catelyn Stark, Talisa, and the Stark's bannermen, while Roose Bolton kills Robb. The Hound and Arya arrive at the twins during the massacre, but it's too late to do anything about it, so the Hound knocks her out and carries her away to safety. This episode was yet another example of no one being safe in this show. You thought Ned Stark was the protagonist. Psych! Okay, but surely his first son Robb would go the distance? I don't think so. Truly one of the most shocking moments in television history. All right, we're almost done. Coming in at number 2 is the season 6 finale, The Winds of Winter. Much like how The Red Wedding had one of the most shocking endings to an episode of television, The Winds of Winter had one of the most shocking openings. Before her trial, Cersei nukes the Sept of Baelor with wildfire, killing everyone. The High Sparrow, the Tyrells, Lancel and Kevin Lannister, hundreds of nobles, and the Faith Militant. Qyburn has Pycelle killed, Cersei reveals her incest with Jaime, and that she had Robert Baratheon killed to Septa Unella before having the zombified Mountain torture her until she dies. Oh, and Tommen just walks out of a tower window after learning about Marjorie's death. To lighten the mood, Sam and Gilly reach the Citadel in Old Town for Sam to begin his research, and you have a sweet Beauty and the Beast nerd out moment when Sam sees the massive library of the Citadel. Elsewhere, Davos confronts Melisandre over Princess Shireen's death, resulting in Jon banishing her. Daenerys leaves her lover boy Daario behind along with the second sons to rule Meereen, and names Tyrion the Hand of the Queen as they set sail for Westeros with the Greyjoys, her armies, and the dragons. Then, as payback for the aforementioned Red Wedding, Arya kills Walder Frey and his sons in this super creepy but effective way. Uncle Benjen, who is now, well, dead, takes Bran and Mira to the wall, but isn't able to pass it due to a number of spells that are carved into it. In a vision, Bran sees Ned finding his sister Lyanna as she lays dying after giving birth to Jon Snow, which was a massive revelation when we first saw it. We cut from baby Jon Snow to the current timeline as he's named King in the North by Lyanna Mormont, the Wildlings, and the surviving northern houses. Jaime then returns to King's Landing, or to what's left of it, as Cersei crowns herself Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. Okay, before we get to the very best Game of Thrones episode of all time, if you've enjoyed this video, do me a solid and hit that little like button. It actually makes a massive difference, and if you want to see more videos like this, consider subscribing. Coming in at number 1 is one I'm sure a lot of you guessed by now, the Season 9 penultimate episode, Battle of the Bastards. This episode starts off with Meereen under attack. Tyrion convinces Daenerys to meet with some slave masters to negotiate a surrender, which they refuse. Big mistake. Daenerys then has her dragons burn the slavers' ships. Grey Worm kills 2 of the 3 masters, leaving 1 alive to report what he witnessed. Theon and Yara also meet with Daenerys and Tyrion to offer an alliance in exchange for the Iron Islands being independent. That meeting goes a little bit better. Then, the moment you've all been waiting for. Near Winterfell, the Stark and Bolton armies meet on the battlefield. Ramsay pretends to let Rickon go before killing him with an arrow, and in the battle, the Stark forces are pinned by Bolton's soldiers in an absolutely insane spectacle. Honestly, unlike anything I had seen on TV up until this point. Then, thankfully, the Knights of the Vale arrive and overwhelm them. Ramsay flees to Winterfell, but a wildling giant breaches the gate and Ramsay is taken prisoner after Jon beats him senseless. Later, Sansa watches as Ramsay's starving hounds devour him. A brutal end for a pretty brutal guy. Well, that's it, my dude. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I definitely want to hear about your favorite episodes in the comments below. If you have any recommendations for lists you'd like to see me put together as well, let me know. I also have an entire playlist of all of my ranking videos ready for you to check out. You can click right here to jump into that. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. All right, be good.